Welcome back. Okay, so we just wrapped up that massive web scraping and HTTP deep dive, looking at tools like requests, Beautiful Soup, Selenium, the whole shebang. But today we're shifting gears completely. We are kicking off a brand new focus on databases by jumping into the incredibly powerful, super flexible SQLAlchemy toolkit. Now, if you've been following along, you know we touched on database interactions back in our Django explainer. But by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how SQLAlchemy lets you wrangle databases using pure native Python code. And honestly, why it's become the absolute undisputed standard for so much of the broader Python ecosystem. Let's get into it. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the magic of ORMs, break down the two-layer architecture, explore core components like engines, sessions, and models, see how to actually work with your data, compare it to the Django ORM, and then wrap up with some best practices. All right, part 1, the magic of ORMs. Let's quickly revisit this foundational concept. So what actually is an ORM? Well, an Object Relational Mapper acts basically like a ridiculously smart translator. It lets you interact with a relational database, meaning your structured tables, rows, and columns, using just native Python objects. You don't have to sit there writing raw SQL by hand. You just write Python, and the ORM handles all that complex SQL translation for you behind the scenes. And the best part? Unlike tools that are glued to specific frameworks, you can grab this with a simple pip install SQLAlchemy. It is a genuinely standalone package. That's a massive advantage, right? Because it means you can drop it into basically any Python web framework you prefer, whether that's Flask, FastAPI, or whatever else you're building. Moving right along to section 2, the two-layer architecture. If we take a peek under the hood, SQLAlchemy actually splits its functionality into two distinct layers. On one side, you've got the core. This is a lower-level layer where you construct SQL queries directly, but you're still using Python code to do it. On the other side, you have the ORM. This is the higher-level layer built directly on top of that core, and it's where you work entirely with Python classes. And honestly, this ORM layer is where the vast majority of day-to-day application development actually happens. Okay, section 3, engines, sessions, and models. These are the absolute core components every developer needs to know. It all kicks off with the engine. You set this up using create_engine and pass it a connection string. That string basically just tells it exactly what kind of database you're connecting to and where it lives. You can think of the engine as the central foundation, literally the main pipeline where all of your application's database communication is going to flow. Next up is the session. A SQLAlchemy session acts like one single ongoing conversation with your database. You use this session to add your new records, run your queries, and importantly, to efficiently batch all your pending changes together so they get applied as one single atomic unit. And finally, models. A model is really just an ordinary Python class that inherits from a declarative base. You list out your columns using column objects, saying, hey, this one's an integer, this one's a string. It's actually incredibly similar to the Django models we looked at earlier, just rocking SQLAlchemist's unique syntax. All right, now that we've got those building blocks down, let's hit section 4, working with your data. Creating and saving brand new records is super straightforward. It's just a 3-step dance. Step 1, instantiate a new instance of your model class. Step 2, pass it right into session.add. And step 3, hit it with session.commit. That commit is what permanently saves that record into your actual database. Create, add, save. Easy. Now, what about when you want to get that data back? Querying. For this, you use session.query, pass in your model class, and then just chain on filtering methods like .filter or .filter_by. It's also worth noting that newer versions of SQLAlchemy have brought in this really slick alternative syntax that mirrors that lower-level core layer we talked about, which gives you an incredible amount of flexibility. And here is where things get really cool. Relationships. Real-world data is almost always tied together, right? Like linking an author to all the books they've written. Well, instead of sitting there manually writing out complex SQL joins yourself, you just define a relationship function directly in your Python models. This lets you access an author's entire bibliography just by typing something like author.books. It feels like magic. So, with those operations clear, let's put this all into context with Section 5, SQLAlchemy vs Django ORM. You might actually be wondering right now, especially if you're facing a real career decision, why on earth would you choose SQLAlchemy over Django's tightly integrated ORM?
Well, the answer really boils down to flexibility versus integration. Look, Django's ORM is incredibly seamless if you are already deep in a Django-based project. It fits perfectly, like a puzzle piece. But SQLAlchemy, it offers maximum flexibility. Because it's fully standalone, it has become the absolute de facto standard for developers who are building with lightweight frameworks like Flask or Fast API that don't have their own built-in ORMs.
Plus, SQLAlchemy's database support is just phenomenal. You can literally be sitting at a coffee shop developing locally on a tiny SQLite database and then turn around and deploy to production running on a massive PostgreSQL setup with basically zero changes to your application code. It's pretty amazing. If we look at a real-world professional scenario, say building an API with Fast API, you can structure a stack by picking the right tool for each layer. You've got Fast API running the web framework, Pydantic handling all your data validation, and SQLAlchemy stepping in as the dedicated heavyweight to manage your database interactions. It makes for a remarkably clean architecture. All right, before we wrap up, let's head into Section 6, Best Practices and Next Steps. Let's lock in 3 absolutely crucial best practices. Number 1, always close your sessions using Python's context manager syntax. The with statement to guarantee they close automatically. Number 2, heavily leverage that relationship function instead of writing manual, separate queries to stitch your data together. And number 3, plan to use a companion package called Alembic right from day 1 of your project. And speaking of Alembic, unlike Django, SQLAlchemy makes a very deliberate choice to not include a built-in migration system for tracking your schema changes over time. Instead, it fully relies on Alembic, that dedicated companion package, to handle all of that functionality. Don't worry though, we are going to be covering Alembic in complete detail in another explainer very soon. But up next, we are going to dive into PsychoPG2. That is the specific low-level PostgreSQL driver that SQLAlchemy actually relies on under the hood whenever you connect to a Postgres database. We still have a ton of amazing tools ahead as we build out this Python engineering toolkit. So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. As you architect your very next flexible Python API, which database system are you going to connect to your SQLAlchemy engine first? Will you start simple with SQLite or dive right into the deep end with PostgreSQL? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep building, and we will see you in the next one.